So it seems like pretty much everyone nowadays, like every guy is really going to the gym because this generation is, I guess you could say, a lot more disciplined when it comes to the actual physique, their actual bodybuilding. And that they can be extrapolated in many ways. Everybody has their own goals. But for you, for us, how can we get an unfair advantage for actually building muscle? So for you to understand, like, who am I? Who is actually speaking to you? Well, my name is Daniel Rojas, and I increased my bench press 100 pounds in 7 months from a 225 bench press to a 325 pound bench press. Ultimately, it was like a New Year's resolution. It was like, I'm going to get to 315 bench press this year. I had been plateaued at 225 bench press for 1 full year before. And I made the full 6 months transformation. So I increased from a 225 bench press to a 315 pound bench press. So 2 plates to 3 plates in 6 months. And I even added the nice 10 pounds cherry on top for the 7th month. And so I just want to tell you that this change is possible, and I had to mention my credibility so that you knew that this change is possible and you can just abolish these limiting beliefs in your head for how fast progress can really be made. In order to get stronger and faster and just more aesthetic and lean than everybody else and faster than everybody else, you need to understand your body's natural systems, for testosterone so that you can actually build muscle faster naturally, and then also your body systems for building muscle. I'm talking like scientific training. So most guys are trying to get to their 225 pound bench press, but really they have this problem. Is like a lot of the guys, when they actually get there, they get stuck. They get plateaued either before they get to the 225 bench press or once they actually hit it. But here's what you actually need to understand in order to make gains and push past these limits and make gains way faster than your competition. So really, the first thing that you need to understand is you must optimize your testosterone, because testosterone not only makes hard work feel fun and makes you more motivated, it also builds muscle faster. And so it's crazy how little people talk about this, because if you see the bodybuilders, the great bodybuilders that are injecting freaking steroids into their body, they're basically injecting testosterone into their body. And the thing is, testosterone is like a natural hormone, and so you can naturally optimize it. Of course, not in the levels that these guys are doing, but you can make it higher than it already is right now so that you can build muscle way faster. And so why wouldn't you do that if you were trying to get a kind of unfair advantage? Because this is one of those unfair advantages. If you optimize your testosterone, if you optimize your hormones naturally, your natural chemical messengers that tell your body what to do, then you will be able to tell your body to do the right things and be able to make the progress faster. So Daniel, how do you increase your testosterone? Well, I'm going to tell you about 10 ways that you can increase your testosterone so that you can get increased muscle mass and be leaner, more aesthetic, and still be stronger than 99% of gym goers like myself. So the first thing you need to understand is that testosterone is the reason why people make more progress in the gym, and it basically makes all of gym gains come faster. You already understand that. The second thing you need to understand is that testosterone exists for competition. So the only reason that testosterone exists is biologically for competition. It's so that your genetics are able to persevere to the next generation. And so what does that really mean? So if I want to increase my testosterone, I need to become a more competitive guy, because through competition, my testosterone gets upregulated and then I become more competitive. It's kind of like a cycle. And so to do that, you can do things like talk to beautiful women. It's kind of a competitive atmosphere because you have other men that are attracted to these women as well. And so that's just one of those things. So you can talk, the thing is, it takes balls to talk to a beautiful woman. And so naturally it's going to increase your testosterone if you're talking to a beautiful woman. And so talk to beautiful women. There was a study that demonstrated that when men just spoke to a woman they thought was attractive for even just 5 minutes, their salivary testosterone, so the testosterone in their saliva, increased by 14%. And I'm talking that was the average. So there were men with more hyper-competitive personalities that had their testosterone skyrocket way more. And then men with, less less competitive personalities, less actually desire to be around a woman, that it spiked less. So this is why that competitive drive kind of allows you to have more testosterone and build way more muscle. And so this isn't the kind of stuff you were expecting. You clicked on a training video kind of like, okay, how do I make progress faster? How do I actually make progress way faster in the gym? Well, the thing is, these are those secrets that nobody's telling you about because nobody really knows about this stuff. But I have researched this stuff extensively, and that is why I have a massive 325 bench press and a 405 squat at 17 years old. So, next thing is sunlight. You need to make sure you're getting your sunlight. Now, I'm not just mentioning all those things like, sleep and all those things that are foundational. But sunlight is something that people neglect, especially in colder type countries, especially when, January comes around. So you want to supplement with at least, you want to have at least 5,000 vitamin D, like IU, 5,000 IU of vitamin D every single day. And so you can go outside for like 20 to 30 minutes and just like have a good time in sunlight every single day, at least. That's just like the minimum, and that will increase your testosterone, not indefinitely. Like, you can't just stand outside like a friggin' raisin and just be like completely good, but and just like your testosterone goes higher and higher, but to a point, then you have your testosterone much higher, your baseline gets higher, and then you build more muscle. The next thing is understanding saturated fats. Saturated fats are the building blocks of testosterone. Testosterone is made from saturated fats. And so we need to make sure that we're having things like eggs in our diet. Things when I say eggs, I mean lots of eggs. I'm talking 6 to 10 eggs every single day. Because what that will do is it will give us more of the building blocks for testosterone. And you might be thinking like, okay, I heard my fat doctor say that that saturated fats are bad. Well, that's just not true. And the reason is that they're addressing a symptom, not actually the cause. They're saying saturated fats are bad because they clog your arteries, but that's not true. The saturated fats will only clog your arteries if you're having the unsaturated fats. Because polyunsaturated compounds, or just monounsaturated compounds, those seed oils, those oils that don't have all of their bonds linked to their carbons, and so basically they can break apart easier. All of those, they can, when heated up, create more compounds called free radicals in your body. And so what that does is it denatures the good healthy fats that usually would be made for your testosterone, for your androgens, for your steroid hormones. And so that's pretty bad. And so we want to avoid those polyunsaturated compounds like seed oils, like canola oils, like margarine, those things. We want to avoid those things because they denature the good, healthy fats. And it's crazy just how misunderstood this is, because it's not actually necessarily the seed oils that are bad. It is when you heat them up. Think about how much heating up that they have actually gone through to get to you. When that happens, they release free radicals that denature the good cholesterol. So anyways, that is understanding the saturated fats and oils for your testosterone. Next up, very, very quick and nice, easy to implement. Buy zinc plus copper balance that will influence your fertility and make your testosterone go higher. Next thing is creatine. There was a study with rugby players that demonstrated that when they took creatine, their dihydrotestosterone, the androgen that is 3 to 5 times more potent than testosterone at the androgen receptors, like the receptors of testosterone, it increased by 56% above baseline, and then it was sustained 40% above baseline. And so the way that you can do this is take creatine 20 grams every day for 7 days, and then the rest you can take 2 to 3 grams per day, or 5 grams every single day if you're a bigger guy like me. Like, I'm 200 pounds. Regardless of if you're lean or not, then you should take 5 grams a day if you're 200 pounds. Next thing is stress less. Both cortisol and testosterone compete for cholesterol, the saturated fats, the building blocks of testosterone and cortisol. And so if you have more cortisol, more long-term stress, then that hormone will take all the saturated fats for the cortisol instead of the testosterone. So can you see how this influences our muscle building if we are in a state of stress all of the time. So we want to make sure that we're not as stressed. We can journal, just write down our thoughts, because often we don't let ourselves think the thoughts that we have because we're just overstimulating ourselves. The next thing is just living a simpler life, because often there's so many just fluff, so many things in our lives that are just causing us to just think way too much and just not really be in the right state of being. The next thing is, I guess you could just practice mindfulness. Like personally, I meditate every single morning. Next up, avoid endocrine disruptors. So these things are things that would interfere with your estrogen signaling or your testosterone levels. A quick example would be just to avoid receipts and just avoid plastic cookware like Teflon pans or just plastic cookware that you would heat up, because that would just end up having more plastic leaching, and plastic is a known endocrine disruptor that will interfere with your estrogen signaling, and then that will interfere with the actual level of testosterone levels that you could have. Next up, avoid strong phytoestrogens. What is a phytoestrogen, Daniel? So, a phytoestrogen is a compound that just releases a lot of estrogen in your body when consumed. And so really that is like if I have soy or if I have flaxseed and I eat those, long term it starts to release or starts to cultivate more gut bacteria that release compounds called like equal. That is a more powerful form of estrogen than estradiol. And so if we consume these phytoestrogens long term, then we end up having higher estrogen levels, and that decreases our testosterone as well. Because as a man, you mostly get your estrogen from your testosterone. And so if you have way high levels of estrogen, then your testosterone will get down regulated. So that's how that works. The next things I want to tell you about are more about the training. So here is how I structured my training around these 6 months that took me to the 315-pound bench press after I had been stuck for 225 pounds for an entire year. So here's what I did. So I integrated heavy compound lifts, but had it so that it matched the volume of what I did before. So Daniel, what does that mean? That means I lifted heavy with a specific program. I lifted heavy, and through lifting heavy with my bench press and compound movements like my squat as well. By the way, I increased my squat 150 pounds also, but squat is less known than like bench press. So like I mentioned my bench press. So I went from a 225 squat for 8 reps to a 405 1 rep max. So anyways, I'll get back to it. So you start all of your workouts. Well, I would say at this point I was benching 3 times per week and training legs twice a week. And so I would start all of my workouts when I would be benching, and then I would also have like a back day, but that was just like its own day. So I would bench first, do my compound lift first, and do it heavy, so that I would get a lot of reps. And you might be thinking like, training heavy, lots of reps, how does that happen? Well, actually the way it worked for me is that I would train heavy, but then I would do a lot of sets. I'm talking 7 sets possibly, even almost some days 9 sets. So low weight, high reps, and high weight, low reps. You can gain muscle in both ways, but the thing is, one is more optimal. Think about it like this. If you're training high weight but low reps, then you can just do more sets. And if you do more sets like that, then you get the same amount of volume, except you are stronger, so you can have more stimulus for your body to actually be able to build more muscle. So you understand how that works. Next up is your accessory work. You should have about 3 sets of your accessory work, and it should be like 8 to 12 reps. Usually if you get to like 12 reps, then you should just increase the weight. And next up is deloads. This was incredibly important, and this is what allowed me to add 25 pounds to my bench press the next month. So think about it like this. It's like if you're watching this video right now and you incorporate these things, the first month you might be able to see a 25-pound increase to your bench press. Amazing. First month I also increased my squat 30 pounds, by the way. So with that being said, a deload is a part in the month where you go slightly less weight than usual. So if I was usually doing like, I don't know, I was trying to go 225 for 8 reps, I would actually end up like a little bit lower. Do you know what I mean? I would end up going lower, because what that happens, what it does for you is that it lets the adaptation catch up for your body. Because you've been stimulating all of your muscles this entire month, and they've been trying to like grow, but your nervous system needs to get ready, and it needs to actually adapt a little bit more, as well as the actual muscles need to grow more. And so with that, just for a week, lower the weight on all of your compound lifts. You can still do the same weight for your accessory work. That's what I did, and it worked for me. I'm just saying all the stuff that worked for me. And that is all the stuff that gave me an unfair advantage when I was going to the gym. And with all that being said, nice. Be competitive, optimize your testosterone, and I guess bulk too. That will also make you get way more gains in the gym, and then eventually you can cut. Like right now I'm cutting. And yeah, if you would like to, like, I understand this is like a lot of different information together. If you would like to have a one-to-one help with this, then I can help you with this. So just check the first link in the description below and you can book a call with me. So yeah, I'll see you in the next one, man.